Hey everybody, welcome back. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty. We were trying to get our sound taken care of, so hopefully we've got that taken care of. If you can hear us, go ahead and add something to the questions bar on the left-hand side. I'm sorry, the right-hand side of your screen. Once again, my name is Trigby. I'm the Business Development Director here at BusyWeb. With me, as always, is Jenna. Say hi, Jenna.
Hello.
Jenna, today we're going to be talking about sharing is caring and how to leverage content to grow your business by enticing your audience to learn more and interesting things. So, do you have something you'd like to share with our audience before we get started?
It's kind of hot outside. It's a little sunny where we are. I say a little bit because it's kind of cloudy out. I'm staring out the window, so that's the only thing I can think of to share off the top of my head is this lovely, nice little weather update.
Well, that's just about the most exciting thing I can think of. Thanks so much for sharing. Here, let me try this a different way. Here's something. Did you know, Jenna, that Al Capone's brother invented the milk label?
I had no idea, genuinely.
There you go. There you go. So thanks again, everybody, for coming. Here is my contact information. We're going to be going through a lot of information very, very quickly. So if you would like to see the slide deck afterwards, you can do one of two things. Number one, you can go to our YouTube channel and see this presentation again. But if you are joining us live, A, thank you for joining us live, and B, if you're interested in asking a question while we're doing this, I'm going to show you how to do that. Over on the right-hand side of your screen, you should see a blue bar that says "Answer Questions." Ask a question. If you're interested in asking a question, do so there, and we will Jenna will interrupt me and stop me during the presentation, and we will answer your question best we can. So let's go ahead and get started. Looks like everything is functioning correctly, and we've got sound, so way to go. Before we get into it, though, quick plug for us here at BusyWeb. What do we do? Who are we? We are a full-service digital marketing agency based in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. We have about 16 people on staff, and we do everything from web design to growth-driven design to email marketing, SEO, anything possible from a marketing standpoint to grow your audience and get your audience to take better actions. We have about 16 people on staff. This is our office up here in Champlin, and you're more than welcome to stop by at any opportunity. We've been in business since 1999. We'd like to think we're pretty good at this, and we hope you do too. So what we're going to be talking about today is content, but really the crux of what we're going to want to get into is the measurement of what we're doing and showing the value of sharing information, because at its core, marketing is truly about getting results. There's a difference between marketing and advertising, because as small business owners, we really want to get people to take action and do action. So that's why we're going to focus on marketing today. And really, we're going to focus on how do we take existing content, things that we might already be doing, and really beef it up and get more people interested in doing it and reading it and sharing it. So here's how we're going to break this down. First thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about curating content. What is curating content? How to curate content effectively. Next, we're going to talk about giving credit where credit is due to those authors that you've found somewhere else. Next, we're going to talk about how to extend your reach so that that content that you're sharing with your social networks gets you out into new and interesting places and gets you better relationships, which should turn into more money. Finally, I'm going to give you 6 easy steps to more shares. How do we get more shares from the existing content that we're already going to get doing? So now that we've gotten started a little, I'll say again, Jen, is there anything you'd like to share with our audience?
Can't think of anything off the top of my head. I have all these useless trivia facts floating around in here, and yet they disappear the second that I need them. So I will keep thinking on it and come up with some.
All right, well, I'll share, because sharing is caring.
Yes, please do.
And I invited my mother to join us today in our audience. So if she's listening, hi, Mom. But my mother told me much later in life as I was growing up, which she would do occasionally, is sit me down and say, much like I just did to you, Jenna, say, is there anything you'd like to share with me? And more often than not, I confessed to something that she had no idea about. It was totally a bluff. So if you're interested, there's a good parenting tip. Just ask the question. So let's get started into content curation. What exactly is that? Content curation means sharing content from other sources, sources that you have not created yourself. You found them in other places. Where do you find such content? Well, there's a lot of different places to do it. It's always good to check the news. You can read blogs of people who are in your industry who are doing what you do. You can follow them on social media or follow news outlets on social media. You can get a Google alert set up, which is a free tool that Google uses where you can enter in a keyword, and anytime Google indexes a page that has that keyword on it, then they will send you an alert and a link to that. However, the key thing with that is that there's no context to it. It's just purely the keyword. I can tell you a funny story about that, but I'll hold off for now. Subscribe to other people's email lists. If there are industry experts who are providing newsletters and interesting content, actually subscribe. And if you are providing a newsletter, make sure that you have redundant subscribe functions in your email so that people who are sharing your email can then turn around and subscribe and be part of your first ring of subscribers. But most importantly, when you are doing curating content, it is absolutely critical to give credit to the original author or source. We're going to get into that a little bit later. When you share content created by others, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can have behind the scenes videos or photos. This is from the Avenue Gallery. It's showing one of their employees loading a painting that's going to be transported. You can also use client and customer testimonials. There are a couple of different ways you can approach these. You can ask a client to share their story on a video, or you can write a paragraph about their experience. Or if you even have a place on your website for reviews, you can pull content right from those reviews. So you can also compile user-generated content. So this particular Facebook page is from an RV park. They share photos from a customer who documented their recent videos, recent video. And is that not the most awesome golf cart you've ever seen in the world?
That is pretty cool. I do have to admit, I like the color of it. And the giant flag is a nice touch.
Yeah, exactly. It really makes you feel American when you're driving a Mercedes golf cart. So the point being here is that there are a lot of different ways, and there are a lot of different people who are interacting with you on a daily basis that you can compile that information and then synthesize it to get the best information that you can put your name behind and share it with other people. Why do we do this? Why is it important to cite the source? Well, here's a quote I found online. 61% of everything you read on the internet is made up. Jenna, do you know who said that?
I'm going to guess Abraham Lincoln.
You're absolutely right.
He's always the one attributed to those quotes online. I just assumed it would be him.
Right. In today's day and age of the internet, with so many different pieces of information flying around, it's important to cite the source, because citing the source shows you exactly where it came from and gives the information that you're trying to project to your audience a certain amount of legitimacy. Now, did Abraham Lincoln really say this? Of course not. But uncited works and undocumented works should have this sense of legitimacy where you don't really know if it's valuable or not. So what are the three standards for citing somebody else's work? Well, the first thing is, who wrote it? What's the name of the author? Where is the place that you found it? And then finally, the date you found it, if it's a publication. A lot of times, pretty much anybody Jenna's age or younger is not going to actually know that there are things as publications like newspapers, but they're going to find it online. But the more information you can provide, the better. Ultimately, what you want to do is put forth a good faith effort that to show that you found this information somewhere else and give credit to the original author. Why do we do this? Well, there's a couple of really good reasons to do so. Number one, it shows humility. I know this is a strange concept and a strange thing to lead with, but if you by showing humility in showing that you are not the world's leading expert in everything that you do, it does show that you are interested in continual learning and continual sharing. It shows your depth, because in sharing your depth of integrity and your depth of knowledge, it shows that you're always interested in finding new things. It saves you a boatload of time, finally. One of the things that we do here at BusyWeb is we do a lot of content creation for people, and it is very time intensive. There's a tremendous amount of value for it, but it does take a certain amount of time. Curating content, finding content from other places does save you a tremendous amount of time. And most importantly, it has the potential to develop a relationship with the original author. Everybody likes to be complimented that what they've done is valuable and somebody else finds it interesting. So just doing it the right way and making sure that that author gets credited. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but by and large, if it does, then you're going to be giving that original author a bit of a compliment. And in order to do that, I wanted to show you how that looks on Twitter. This is a good retweet when it comes to Twitter. So we're sharing a piece of content through that link on the right-hand side. I've titled it what something that I think is interesting, but I've also credited the source. And I've even added a hashtag there so I can show you anybody who's discussing that same amount of information not only might find me as an expert, but they're also going to find that original source. Ultimately, the goal in doing that is the good cats at Flowtown are going to see that and see that I've honored them by giving them the credit where credit is due. So we've talked about curating content. We've talked about giving credit where credit is due. Now let's talk about extending our reach into new and interesting ways now that we've got content and pieces of information that we're going to be sharing. Well, the first thing I want you to do is actually share that content. Share it on social media, share it through sharing tools, put it together in an email so that you can email your audience or email those people who are truly interested in that piece of information that you're sharing. The fun part really gets into what we like to call the butterfly effect, which is we take one piece of content, and because the more we share that same piece of content in other places, from an email to Facebook to Instagram, we're sharing that one piece, but it gets bigger and bigger, and so the dropping the pebble into the water grows our sphere of influence across all fronts. And ultimately, every time that we do this, we're reaching our customers where they are, not only our current customers, but our potential customers as well. Not only our friends, but our friends of friends. So we always want to start with email. Why do we start with email? Well, for the first part, most everybody in the world has email. There are 4.6 billion email addresses in the world. And again, fun fact, Jenna, because today is sharing is caring, there are only 4.2 billion toothbrushes in the world.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Good thing it's lunchtime. So starting with email, by and large, everybody's got an email address, but adding social media to that is going to increase our reach and ultimately cycle onto itself and cycle back to our email list and get people to be continuously sharing and continuously going back to us as an industry expert. When we offer sharing tools, like this is a constant contact tool, you can see in the middle of the screen the little Facebook, the Twitter, the LinkedIn button. Why do we do that? It's because it increases click-through rates on what we share by over 100%. But just by adding that share bar. And that's something you can get on just about any email service provider. The reason we're doing that is we're reminding our audience to share our promotions. We're asking our audience to like us on Facebook, to retweet on Twitter, or even pin on Pinterest. The audience that we're trying to communicate with has a lot of influence via their word of mouth, and you can get your promotions and information and pieces of content that you're sharing in front of more people, more friends, more family, if they help spread the word for you. Ultimately, though, the easiest thing to do and the most valuable thing that we can do is to just ask people the question. Please share, please ask, please tweet, please repin this. Statistically speaking, 5 out of 10 times, if we ask people to do something, they're going to do it, whether or not, if it's benign and something simple. You know, I asked Jenna to help me do something a little nefarious the other day, and she said no, but that's fine. But she did share something on Facebook that I posted. So I wanted to get into this social share tool a little. This is, again, starts with email. And the value behind this is we're making life tremendously easy for our end user. It's going to, this offers a quick and easy way to share an email that gets sent out on Facebook or LinkedIn, where we can actually create the messaging that's going to get sent out. So all my end user has to do is click on that social share F, and the message that I want is going to automatically be populated into that social channel for them. It also makes life really easy to plan social posts if you have a calendar. So what's next? We've talked about creating content effectively. We've talked a little bit about giving credit where credit is due. Finally, we've talked about how to extend our reach a little into social channels. I'm going to stop here and say, for those of you who are listening, if you have a question, that bar on the right-hand side that says questions, where you see Jenna pointed out that we had a little technical difficulties to start with. If you have a question, feel free and ask it at any time, and we'll be happy to stop what we're doing and really get into your question for those of you who are listening live. If you're listening on YouTube, thanks for listening, but you'll have to catch us next week.
Or, since this is about sharing, if you want to share a piece of random trivia or some fact that you know that you think is cool or funny or interesting, go ahead and type that in there too.
Fun fact that I'll share is the first gig for the Magician's Penn and Teller was at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. Did you know that, Jenna?
I didn't.
Well, that's not entirely true. I told you that about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, but I didn't know it before that.
True. Exactly. Do you have any fun facts that you'd like to share? Any fun pieces of trivia?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
Oscar the Grouch was originally orange.
Really?
Yep. In the first season of Sesame Street, he was orange, and then they decided to make him green because he was showing up weird on the TV. The color wasn't reading. You know,
fun fact along that similar line, Grover, who is now blue, he used to be green.
It's just changing things up.
Right. Here's another true story. I have a 2-year-old at home who loves to watch Sesame Street, and I have sent complaint letters to my local PBS station because they show the same 30 episodes over and over and over again, and I would like a new episode of Sesame Street to watch with my son.
A little more variety. Don't they have 30 plus years to pull from?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If any of you know anybody at Twin Cities Public Television, please encourage them to air a new Sesame Street episode. I'm getting really sick of learning about how Elmo thinks the letter I is one great letter. All right, so let's get back to what we're talking about, though, because this is really what the nuts and bolts of what we're going to be wanting to do today is. There are 6 real keys to getting a successful social and email integration. What I mean by that is, how do we get people to actually share, and how do we get people to actually do what we want them to do? So this is my fun little circle of sharing, but we're going to get into each one of these individually. The first thing we're going to talk about is what motivates people to share. This means something completely different to each individual people, but ultimately, if we understand what motivates somebody to actually take the action that we're asking, namely to share something, then that's going to go a long way into getting what we want shared. So first and foremost, people share because they're contributing to the conversation. Sharing benefits people through the value of information shared in return. Having conversations is really the fulcrum and the value of social media, is to have intimate conversations with people all over the world and all over the country, and doing so on a one-to-many basis. In addition to that, it also promotes your self-interest. It rewards the pocketbook, and it rewards the amount of influence that you have. How many times have you ever logged into your Facebook page at night and somebody asks a very simple and benign question, does anybody know a really good plumber? At the end of the day, what if you're a really good plumber? That's a way for you to promote your business, and also by continuing the community and adding to the community, you're making people's lives better. Next, people share because of altruism. It simply makes them feel good to share a piece of information or share something funny. One of the things that I'm relatively famous for here at BusyWeb is saying, in all due seriousness, never underestimate the value of a cute cat video. Even as something as simple as a benign cute cat video, of which there are many out there, it makes people's lives just a little better, and it gives people the opportunity to breathe and smile and reset their lives just a little bit to start their day. Jenna, what's your favorite cat video?
Well, I have to give it up to the classic keyboard cat on YouTube. The one with the cat wearing a dress while he's
That's a good one. My two favorites are, there's a woman in San Diego who dresses her cat up in costume, and then the cat will sit on this lady's Roomba and ride it around. So there's a cat wearing a short costume riding around on a Roomba. And my current favorite, which I think is great, I'd encourage you to Google it, is cats getting ice cream headaches. That's really fantastic.
No, cats could eat ice cream. Probably not supposed to eat ice cream.
Probably not. So for those of you listening, please don't feed your cat ice cream without your veterinarian's knowledge and permission. So sharing gives you a certain sense of validation. It feeds the ego that you are smart and you are a master of your domain. And I shared a picture of the Wicked Queen here because just being beautiful isn't important enough for her. She needs to be more important than more beautiful and more important than just about everybody else. Sharing gives you a certain amount of affinity. It makes you remember that no matter how lonely you are and how sad you might feel, you are still part of a community. It might not be as strong of a tie as you want, but you are still there and you are still part of it. And prurience, which is a fun word that I wrote my senior thesis on in college. Simply put, it makes people feel a little less guilty when they gawk and they see train wrecks by sharing other things or helpful bits of information. So that's a little bit about the motivation of why people share things. The next question is, where do we want to target those people to share? Well, the simple fact of the matter is that answer is going to be different for every single one of you who is listening today. Who your audience is, what their interests are, and where they can be found is going to be completely different on just about every social channel. I did provide what I thought was somewhat of an interesting graph here statistically about how many links are included when on promotional emails that get sent out. So by and large, Facebook links get included a lot of the time, but there are a lot of other, and you can see it sort of ties off from there. But ultimately, the amount of information really depends on what your specific audience is. So then the question becomes, how do you target the right networks? Here are a couple of suggestions that we have. Number one, utilize third-party research. If there's an association or an industry-specific magazine that you are in, ask them or use that as a reference guide. Monitor your network activity. If you don't have a lot of Twitter followers, maybe you shouldn't be on Twitter. Analyze your click share activity. What's a click share activity? It means when you're getting somebody to do what you want them to do, and how many people in your audience are doing that, then you're getting a good understanding of whether or not you're in the right place or not. Identify sub-trends, meaning who are the high-value sharers and whether or not that skews your data. So again, if my mom's listening, my mom typically likes everything that I share on Facebook. So if I'm evaluating whether or not I'm providing the right content, I have to keep that in consideration because she's just going to like everything because she's my mom. But in order to understand that, we also have to kill the losers. What I mean by that is don't actually do that. But if something's not working, if you have a social channel that isn't providing you with a good return on your investment, either from a money or time perspective, then just simply don't do it. So the next step in our 6-step process is educate subscribers on what they're going to get and why they need to share information for you. So why is this education key? It's because we're showing that despite the growth, actual sharing and providing information is still sort of in its infancy on the internet level. There's a different level of social adoption when it comes to different industries. And so really understanding making sure that you are leveling the playing field and letting your audience know what they are going to get from you, and then actually doing it is absolutely paramount. Sharing features and networks can differ depending upon where you are. So your approach does have to be different. With Facebook and Instagram, you can provide more pictures than you can on something like Twitter. On Pinterest, you need to provide something that is an activity or something that has a tangible step process to really get a lot of sharing to go in there. Here's a great example that I found about just simply encouraging somebody to share this information. If you love this brand, then your friends might too. I can't say this enough. Sometimes just simply asking a good question without being too overbearing is the easiest way for you to get more shares. Simply asking the question. Now, that being said, if you're simply asking the question, there's a right and a wrong way to ask a question. Demanding a share is much different than suggesting a share. I'm suggesting to you that the best way to do this is to suggest a share. Okay, so number 4 is optimize sharing design and link dislocation, which is a fancy way of saying it needs to be as easy as possible for what you're doing and how you're doing it. So you want to make sure that in your design process that you are having links and things and calls to action everywhere, not just on the top, not just on the bottom, but everywhere in between. By and large, statistically, things get skewed to the bottom because most people have links in their footer, but having a clear call to action and having it be redundant in that piece of information that you're sharing is just as crucial. Next, create share-worthy content. Now, when I say create, does that mean that you have to make new stuff all the time? Not necessarily. You can curate interesting information as well. What does that really look like from a macro level? Well, on a B2B level, here's some really good examples. Providing relevant articles, relevant things that are industry specific, tips and tricks. Those all kind of get into that bucket. Next is a webinar notification. All of you listening today got a notification of this webinar. So, and we encourage you to share this with your friends and family. Hopefully you did as well. And then finally, just simply news. Here's what's going on at our company. Here are the new things that are happening, and here's the value in knowing that thing and how that's going to make your life a little bit better. With B2C, one of the most important things that you can do is something as simple as recipes. I like this a lot, even though I'm a terrible cook. The reason is it gets me imagining about what could be. I really think I could make tiramisu, but most likely I can't, at least not as successfully as other people. But I like pretty things. I like the look of really good food, and I'm more apt to share that as opposed to anything else. Here's a great example of a large company doing something good on a very small basis. This was a Pillsbury Doughboy email that they sent out. It's a very simple call to action. He is a personalized Valentine just for you. You just click on the one thing, but more importantly, you have the opportunity to share it with your friends on Facebook. So at the end of the day, is this going to make you want to buy Pillsbury dough more or less? Well, that's a larger question that we could spend a lot of time trying to answer. At the end of the day, though, he's cute, he's cuddly, and sharing something and making somebody's life just a little bit easier is certainly valuable and is going to give somebody a smile. So finally, in our 6-step process, test, analyze, refine your content to try and get increased sharing. What's working, what's not working? Well, if you have an offer, is it working? Are you getting some sales? If not, refine it. Is your link style appropriate for your audience? Do they need to have links in more than one place? Does it have to be at the top or the bottom? Those are all very good questions that as DIY marketers, you need to be asking yourself to see whether or not you're going to get the best effect possible. Have a broad message versus a narrow focus message. A narrow focus message tends to have a shelf life. So that Pillsbury Doughboy Valentine's Day thing I showed you just a minute ago, if I showed that to you at the end of March, that probably didn't have as much effect as it did in the first week of February. See what your viral messages happened and see what got you the most effect for your dollar. One of the things that is sort of shocking here at BusyWeb for our busy webinars is the highest rated busy webinar we've ever had is one where Jenna and I talked about social media failures in 2015. And it was fun and it was interesting and there were some lessons to be learned, but that is truly surprising as that's our highest rating. So we've tried to incorporate some of the lessons we've learned into other things that we've done, and you've seen a change in our branding as a result. And make sure that you have a certain percentage of high value sharers. Those are the people who are going to be sharing your information every single time. Those are the percentage of people that are going to be your evangelists who are always going to preach how great you are to everybody and everybody. You want to make sure that those people are constantly fed and happy and that you're providing them with information that they can share and make them look good. When you identify those key influencers, you want to see who shared your message consistently, and you want to make sure that they can feel special by offering them incentives, exciting information, new and valuable things. Again, anything that you can do to make them look like a superstar, you want to go ahead and do. How do we measure what the success looks like, though? Well, here are a couple of examples that if we're, from a process standpoint, our share click-through rate, what did we actually get from that? Well, it means we get more people converting, we get more people looking at our website. Opens, again, that's something where we're growing our audience based. Performance by network, that's going to show us whether or not we need to get an additional reach or even new subscribers or new followers. So ultimately, the thing that we preach here at BusyWeb is if you're not measuring, you're not marketing. Have a clear goal of what you want to accomplish ahead of time before you start any marketing process. And this sharing is a great example of that. How much more do you want to have shared? And how much more do you need to grow your sharing in order to be successful? Start with that piece of information before you get into the process-oriented things, and your life's going to be so much better. So in summary today, I wanted to give you a couple of examples of things that we're really going to be talking, what I really wanted you to take away from this. Narrow your network focus. If things aren't working for you, if you're not getting a great return on your social channels from a sharing perspective or even from an engagement perspective, it's time to ditch those and focus on the ones that are. Second, make it absolutely easy to share. You want to make sure that as you are sharing your information, you're making life easier, and those people who you're asking to have share that information can do so quickly and easily. Third, determine what your subscribers and your audience finds most share-worthy. The kiss of death in marketing is to write something that you think is interesting, not what your audience thinks is interesting. Your audience is more important than you are when you are writing for writing marketing material. Next, identify and reward your key influencers, those people who are always going to be sharing your information and always going to be coming to your events and buying from you. You want to reward those people and make sure that you are giving them what they need to look successful. And finally, test everything. Even test your assumptions, test your process, and don't be afraid to fail. If you think something's working, but you might want to see if you can get it to work a little better and it doesn't, that's not a bad thing. That's a validation of your earlier process that you had it right the first time. So don't be afraid to fail. You should be running through a wall that has your shape in it. And because ultimately that's really going to be the biggest measure of success, is how much can you learn from things that you need to change. And again, the last thing I really want to convey to you is remember to share for your audience, not just share for you. You might think something is funny. You might feel particularly passionate about something. You might think it's interesting, but if your audience doesn't listen to you and they don't find it's interesting, it's not going to be to garner you any sort of influence or growth. Keep it relevant, keep it short, keep it focused, and if you can use analytics to learn more about what you're doing and how successful you're doing, all the better. One last thing before we go, because I talked about citing your work. I want to thank Lauren McDonald at Lauren McDonald for the use of some of her slides today. I found them on SlideShare. She had a really nice and effective presentation on social sharing that I used some of her slides here today. So thank you, Lauren, for that, and hopefully we can connect down the road in the future. Jenna, before we go, do we have any questions from our audience?
We do not have any questions.
Excellent. Was there any parting fun facts that you'd like to share?
Sure. Well, the new Harry Potter book just came out recently, which you may or may not know. And Harry Potter, the character, and J.K. Rowling, the author, have the same birthday. She gave him the same birthday as herself.
July 31st.
July 31st.
Yep, I know. Is that what you're reading right now?
I'm still waiting for my copy to get here. I ordered it on Amazon, and they had a little bit of a screw up, so...
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I'm reading this fascinating book. I should say I'm not so much reading it as it came yesterday in the mail, and I really want to, called The Holy Are the Broken, about the Leonard Cohen song Hallelujah, and the genesis of how that became as popular as it is today, and sort of the overall arching idea of why is it so hard for good ideas to take shape.
That does sound interesting.
Yeah, it's not nearly as funny as or interesting as yours, but anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. This has been our busy webinar for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016. I believe Dave is going to be back next week with another interesting topic, and then I think Jenna, you and I are handing out the rest of the month. So
yep.
A couple of things before we leave. If you'd like to join our email list, we'd love you to do so. The easiest way to do so is text BIZZY, B-I-Z-Z-Y, to 22828. Again, B-I-Z-Z-Y to 22828. And if you want to get a hold of me, I'd love to chat with you about how you thought this went today. And if you have any questions, or if you even like a copy of this slide deck, I'd be more than happy to share it with you. Once again, this is going to be published immediately to YouTube, so you should be able to relive it and all of Jenna's fun facts that she shared with you today, including the weather and the fact that she hasn't gotten her Harry Potter book yet, and so much more is going to be available at your fingertips. We encourage you, if you found this interesting, to share it with your friends on your social channels as well. So thanks everybody for joining us. Any parting words, Jenna?
I hope you all have a fantastic day.
Aw, see, that's because
Very
sharing,
sweet.
that's because sharing truly is caring. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.